Good evening, everybody. This is your host, Huge Pop from the Huge Pop Entertainment. With me, Reek. He's my boy. He's my host. And tonight, man, it's a special night at the Huge Pop Entertainment.
Yeah, buddy.
Boy, do we have two guests that I know them personally from their independent wrestling promotion, XIW, Extreme Impact Wrestling. But tonight, we're going to hear from their career in professional wrestling before they got to be where they're at XIW. We have John Saxon below. We have the GOD Adrian Whisper beside me. We are going to tear the roof down. They're going to drop the mic on a lot of stuff, I'm sure. I cannot wait. I could ask one question, and they're going to go at it, and we can talk for hours. But I have to say this. Until I watched the video a couple days ago leading into tonight, I now understand where XIW is today, because these guys were tearing up the roads XIW style 20 years ago. And I can say this, man, I'm so excited to hear what you guys have to say. And it's going to be like a round table, guys. Where did you guys start your professional wrestling careers, training-wise? And I guess, Adrian, you can go first.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Taking it back.
Oh, yeah. Let me take it way back. I was working at the Waffle House in Mobile, Alabama, and for my family, mother-in-law, daughter-in-law, sister-in-laws, all of them worked there. And Mike the Hippie Boyette kept coming in the afternoon shift, and he's an old Gulf Coast wrestler. And not sure if you're aware of the Hippie Boyette, but Saxon is very well known like I do. And then a friend of ours, his wife worked at Waffle House on my shift, and he trained as a professional wrestler. And I'm thinking to myself, man, this little short fat fucker, if he could train to do it, I know I can. You know what I'm saying? So the guy who did Lord Humongous this last 12, 15 years, Richard Bailey, God rest his soul, COVID took him, but he was doing training in Mobile. So I go down, I give him my $1,500 to train. That was just to start training. I had to pay another $1,000 over a 6-week period, and I would be paid in full and trained to be able to become a professional wrestler. So, needless to say, that was 33 years ago.
Wow, 33. John, how about you? How did you get into the business, man?
Oh, man, like everybody else, started as a fan, and I'll go all the way back to, and I've told this story a bunch of times. When I was in junior high school, I remember we had to write an essay, or, you have to do that type of crap now, and they asked, what do you want to be? And the only two things I ever wanted to do was play football, which I was an exceptional football player at one time when I was young, or be a pro wrestler. And I remember everybody thinking that was nuts. They kind of laughed, and I'm like, no, if I had a choice, and that would be something I want to do. And that stems honestly from just going to my first live event. And I believe it or not, I have the newspaper clipping from the very first live event I attended, and that was December 28th, 1977. And
man,
once I saw it live, I had seen it on TV. I didn't realize, because I was 10 years old at the time. I didn't realize you could see it in person. And I went to the arena, and I didn't even remember this until many years later. It was actually a birthday present. And I remember never being more scared and excited at the same time as a kid. And I remember these guys were huge, and they're just loud and just crazy. And I thought, geez, man, that's got to be the best job in the world. And so that just kind of got in me from the time I was a kid. So once I got out and started searching to try to get into it, I got, God loves Skandar Akbar, bless his heart. That guy used to make fun of me because I used to hang around arenas trying to get people to talk to me, trying to figure out how do you get into this. And nobody would even give me back then, kayfabe was a big thing.
Yeah.
So to them, I was just a rabid, crazy fan, and nobody wanted to talk to me. And it drove me nuts. And then luckily in '89, I got an opportunity. I met some guys who were doing a outlaw promotion in the old Watts territory. and they were trying to run a show in my hometown, but they didn't know any people there. And I was very connected. And so, believe it or not, I bought a show, and I promoted the show first just because I knew if I paid them as promoter, they would have to talk to me.
Okay. Yeah.
So
Smart, man.
that's literally how I got started. It was in '89. I started as a promoter, wanting to become a wrestler, obviously, and that's basically how it started. Well, Mike Davis, I don't know, y'all may not remember him at all, but Maniac Mike Davis and Alan Martin were a tag team called the RPMs.
Okay.
And they just took a liking to me for whatever reason. And they started teaching me stuff in the ring here and there, just kind of sporadically. And that's basically where it started.
All right. All right. Hey, Rico, what you got?
So I want, because you guys talk about how like going to the wrestling school and stuff. So for the hard heads out there who believe that they don't need the school, they can just jump right in. Like, what advice do you have to them to like? Yes, it does cost money, but is it worth it?
I'll chime in on that in just a second. I want to tell a quick little story. And Saxon is one of the few people that knows this story. He was talking about his first time going to wrestling live. My very first time, I was 11 years old.
Is this a Joey Barrett story? It's got to be a Joey Barrett story.
No, the Sika story.
Oh, the boots. Yeah.
Yeah,
This is good.
And before that show, we watched Mid-South Wrestling at 12:30 on Channel 13, where I lived. And it was Captain Redneck Dick Murdoch and Jimmy Garvin. They were facing the Samoans, Alpha and Sika. Well, on TV that Saturday before that show, they would go to lock up, and Captain Redneck Dick Murdoch would stop and point up at the lights, and Sika would look up at the lights, and he'd stomp his toes. Well, he did this 3 or 4 times, and I thought it was so hilarious. My dad goes and pawns his shotgun to take me to the Mid-South Coliseum to watch Mid-South Wrestling. And, man, Sika and them's coming out, and I run up to the guardrail real quick, and I look at him. He looks at me and starts to growl, and I pointed up at the lights. He looked up at the lights, and I had on these little pleather boots, man, with the big cowboy heel on them. I stomped his fucking toes so hard, dude. Not no work, you know what I'm saying? Big Cat Ernie Ladd had to stop him from coming across the barricade.
Awesome.
Well, the best part is watching Adrian ask Sika if he remembered that 20 years later, and he looked at me and he goes, "Was you the little son of a bitch that did that?"
It was like, I got a bone to pick with you.
Yeah.
But on to your question about school. I mean, there's 1,000 schools in one state, and maybe one out of those 1,000, the trainer's actually been trained properly itself. 9 times out of 10, you have 1,000 schools, 1,000 promotions, and all of those started because the person that's running that particular organization or that training school couldn't get booked themselves. So they figured they would start their own school and promotion, put themselves over as the heavyweight champ. I mean, if you want to look like a jackass when you come into a wrestling show and not be trained properly, then go to that one of those thousands of schools that the mugs don't know what's going on. Always make sure you research who's training you. Today with the internet, you can find out anything you want on anybody damn near. You can learn how to perform brain surgery on YouTube. So you tell me how you can't find accredited school and learn this craft and help give back to it instead of just taking away from it.
Yeah, when you're talking about the wrestlers as of promoters, Dan Severn, I remember he didn't do so well in WWF at the time, and he ended up just opening up his own wrestling school there in Coldwater, Michigan, and that's where my brother went. And he went and trained with Dan Severn, and that was good stuff right there, man. Dan's a good guy.
Oh yeah, I worked with Dan. I worked with Dan when I was at TCW, and super guy. Matter of fact, had a great match with Wardell Walker, and Dan being a legit shoot guy, obviously, not being a sports entertainment guy, I think had Dan come around in the NWA days, he'd have done a lot better in pro wrestling because, Vince was more about the glitz and the glam, and Severance isn't any of that. So, but just to kind of back up what Adrian's saying is, I mean, here's the skinny on it at this point. I was told when I was very young in the business, two things were going to kill pro wrestling. One was pay-per-view and the other was wrestling schools. And I disagreed wholeheartedly with one of my mentors. I said, dude, you're crazy. And he said, tell me why. And I said, well, because pay-per-view is going to reach way more people. He said, okay. I said, in wrestling schools, I mean, guys will have a chance to go to a school and learn and this and that. Well, about 7 years later, I understood what he meant. And here's where wrestling schools ruined pro wrestling. Because a bunch of guys who weren't properly trained bought rings, and improperly trained a bunch of guys who also got rings later on. And what Dusty called it was the multiplicity theory. And if you remember, there was a movie years ago called Multiplicity.
Tom Hanks.
And the guy kept cloning himself. Well, after he cloned himself a certain amount of times, the guy, he was creating guys that were walking into walls and shit. And basically, I looked at him, I said, I get it now. Okay. It spread like roaches. So you had a bunch of guys who didn't know their ass from their elbow, running around claiming to be pro wrestlers, and you get out there. I mean, I've been in the ring with guys, and I literally had to just beat them up because I'm trying not to get hurt because they don't know what they're doing. Right. So I tell everybody that asks about it, first thing I tell any young man that asks me about it, I tell them don't do it. It'll ruin your life. Okay. Or if you're going to do it, learn a trade, have something else to fall back on, because the chances of you being in the 1% big money makers are like being in a band. There's a million bands out there. Only a couple of them ever make any real money. So you run to the same thing. Now there's a school in every town. I've been asked 1 million times. It's almost like people assumed I would open a school when I stopped wrestling. Why aren't you teaching? I said, because there's schools everywhere and nobody'd make it through my training. I mean, they just don't have that kind of dedication now. I said, the way I would train guys, just ain't going to work. That's why, like when Adrian started, pretty much you had to pay up front. And the reason they made you pay up front, because if you quit, they didn't care. They go out there and stretch you out and you quit, and then you went and told everybody, hey, that shit's real. Now we'll let you make payments every month, and I'm some lowbrow guy with a ring who doesn't want to get a regular job. So I just extort y'all for money every month, even though I can't really teach you, how to be in the wrestling business. Right. And it's like an epidemic. I mean, it's horrible.
But they didn't know.
Gotcha.
Whisper was he had just got into a real bad car wreck and was under the influence of morphine on a daily basis from my doctor. So I trained under morphine. So it didn't matter what the fuck they done to me.
He's like, bring it on.
Yeah. Shit.
So you guys talk about training.
They told me if I wanted to train to be a professional wrestler, I had to go all the way up to the top rope, do a moonsault to the canvas, nobody there, no cushions, no nothing. If you don't do that, you're not going to train until you do that. I was like, okay, whatever, man. I'd run up the top rope, do a moonsault, don't realize that my legs should be cocked in a 90-degree angle. So I didn't break both my big toes, and that's what wound up happening. I broke both my big toes and still trained the rest of the day because I was on. I didn't feel shit.
Wow. So you guys at XIW, I know John, you play a role, and Adrian, you play your role, whatever. What do you guys encourage your guys that are wrestling for XIW to go train as far as training, whatever? Or is that all on them? Do they come fully trained already?
Yeah, no, well, that's kind of part of the booking aspect, man. You're not going to get anybody working our events that doesn't have legit training, first of all.
All right.
That's why I kind of shake my head, because here's the thing. If you go to an XIW show, you're looking at a lot of vet guys that have traveled, guys that have been there, guys that have done it. Now, don't get me wrong, we'll have a couple of guys, like I had a couple of guys come in that are training underneath one of my veteran guys. Hey, I got a kid coming along. If you can find a spot for him, get him some experience, which is how the business used to be done. Okay, you got in the pocket of some vet guy and he drug you around and you got some opportunities. So we don't have a lot of problem with that because, dude, I'm not hiring anybody that's not a legit professional.
Okay. All right. And that
And
goes back to what I was saying earlier off camera, John and Adrian. You guys watching film of you guys back in the day when you guys were doing your craft, right? You guys were busting balls. You guys were shoot. I have video. We'll look at that in a little bit. You guys were putting on shows after shows after shows, banger after banger after banger. And what I seen in those videos, I was telling Rico, I see very similar to what you guys put out in Panama City at XIW. Can you talk about that, guys? Why is that where you get your inspiration from?
I wouldn't really say inspiration. XIW was a culmination of my sick mind. You know what I'm saying? I wrestled with Saxon and them before I moved up further north. I moved to Virginia, and I was gone for about 5 or 6 years. When I left Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana area, I was 168 pounds. And then the internet comes out, and then you can get anything you want. I come to find out on the internet. So I'm 3 or 4 weeks, I'm searching on the internet on how to get big. And the only way it was to get big was to get on steroids. You know what I'm saying? So I got on steroids, went from 168, 160 pounds in 6 months. And I was a shit brick house. And I was always never in the upper part of the card when I was in the Mississippi, Louisiana area, but maybe once or twice. And it really wasn't due to I didn't know what I was doing or I didn't know how to wrestle. I was just, in promoters' eyes, I wasn't a very reliable person because at that time I was drinking alcohol, man. I drank a 500 proof Southern Comfort and a case of Budweiser every day, and I'd go get in the ring and train. I'd wrestle, you know what I'm saying? Back then it was a party. How many you could drink, how many pills you could pop, and how many rats you could screw in one night. And that was the business to us. So I kind of, or not to us, to me, on how I handled the situation. But I was working with so many different people in the North Carolina area, and they were just so fake looking and choreographed. So I'm wrestling with this company in Virginia, and they give me every guy that's new, right out of training, don't know what the hell they're doing, blah, 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 and I'd wind up whipping their ass. So I got a reputation of I was a real stiff worker, but I was a safe stiff worker, what we call a work and shoot in the business. And I would wind up shooting on these kids, not permanently hurting them, but hurting them in their ego more than anything. So time goes by. I'm not liking the situation I'm in Mississippi or Louisiana, Virginia, North Carolina, and South Carolina, because there's only a few promotions at this time that you could wrestle for. And one was ran by a pedophile. I didn't want to work with him. Another one was ran by a lady who was trying to book all the old vets she could to screw them. I didn't want to work for her. The other company was ran by 2 workers that really didn't know what the hell they were doing to begin with. And I said, okay, well, let me start XIW. So I created XIW. And whenever I had our first production meeting, I told everybody in that production meeting, and Wayne was one of DW was one of those guys that was there. And I told him, if we can't go out here and suspend these people's disbelief in the first 10 seconds we're out there, then we might as well just pack our bags up and go home right now. I said, so what I'm saying is, if you're right there with the people, I want to hear you hit this person. Be safe, but I want to hear it. And it just got to where everybody, even if they had a bad day, knew they XIW have a match and they could let all their frustrations out on their opponent in a safe environment and not be held accountable for it. That was XIW. So it's ever since then, it's been everybody wanting to steal the show. And it's like this wrestling, the veterans will tell you there's a place for every person on the card and how this match is set and how this card is built up to the end. And your first match is what's supposed to get the people ready for the night wrestling. This is what you're in store for. And most of the time it's built up until all of that adulation goes to that main event. With XIW, you're going to find it's going to start out at the beginning with one of the best matches of the night. The second one wants to top that one. The third one wants to top that one. The fourth one wants to top that one, because we're one of the only companies that give a best match of the night bonus. So it's everybody collectively with the same thing in mind. Let's go out here, and all we want to hear is these people saying, God damn, they're beating the shit out of each other.
It's amazing how motivated guys get when there may be some extra money in it.
Right.
So John, you were telling us that you wanted to share a story about, because that was around that kind of my question. And you feel like you could share that story you wanted to share? That you
I'll kind of retell it. That's one thing Adrian's talking about is even before he went to Virginia, he worked in South Louisiana with us, and flat out, when you came up in the Watts territory. Watts had big guys. They were stiff, and I mean, don't get me wrong, safe, but people down there, you got to earn them. You have to earn them. If it looks hokey, here's something, and I'll just kind of give this as a basis. A lot of people didn't know that years and years ago, Paul Bosch ran Houston, but Paul Bosch was a single show. What he did is he used the Houston or the San Antonio booking office, or he'd use the Dallas booking office, but he would bring in talent from all over the United States, even though he was using, say, Watts' TV. So you could go there and you'd see a Dr. Death Steve Williams, wrestling against a Big Cat or whoever from Mid-South, but you'd also likely to see Vern or Nick Bockwinkel wrestling somebody like Bruiser Bob Sweetan, which would be a weird combination. And he literally got San Martino to Houston once. And what happened was they about booed San Martino out of the damn building, because Northeast WWF wrestling was hokey to them. It was more, and I came across the match, and man, I cringed. I saw it about 2 days ago. I just stopped to look at it for a second because I think it was on Facebook or something. It was Haystacks Calhoun against the Big Cat Ernie Ladd. And anybody that knows me knows I loved Ernie. Okay. Yeah. Loved Ernie from the time I was a kid up to the time I actually got to work with him, learn a little bit from him. And when I tell you the match was so hokey, it reminded me why I just had no interest in watching Northeast wrestling, because it was hokey. I mean, Calhoun couldn't throw a decent punch if his life depended on it. Not to mention, if he hit the mat, he couldn't get back up because he was too fat. Slow, plodding, just, Well, in the South, it wasn't like that, okay? If you came up in even Texas, okay, Texas is stiff. That's a stiff territory, always has been. Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, anywhere down here, it was a stiff territory from way back. So when me and Whisper worked each other, it was okay. And I heard Michael Hayes say this when he talked about working at Von Erichs. Okay, don't break any teeth, don't break any bones, but dude, we're going to go out there. And dude, there's many a night me and him went out there, and I mean, we beat the snot out of each other. And one night in Mobile, Alabama, him, working as the professional, which was put on him by Paul Bearer of all people, because coming up, that was Paul Bearer's favorite guy was Tarzan Baxter, who wrestled as the wrestling pro. So we recreated the character, and he wanted a guy to do it. And Whistler was back from Virginia. I said, dude, man, Busby can do that. Oh, Jesus, Larry Busby, that son of a bitch won't listen to nobody. He was against it at first. I said, have you seen him lately? I said, that boy come back from Virginia. He looks like $1 million. I said, let him work with me. I said, me and Larry go back a long way. It's Larry, but let him work with me. And boy, we got out there and just started throwing hands. Well, when we got done, Bob Kelly come in the back. Cowboy Bob Kelly was the biggest baby face in the history of Gulf Coast wrestling, right next to Ken Lucas. He come in. He said, man, I want to shake your hand. And he said, let me tell you what, you and that old boy right there make money like me and Donnie Fargo used to make money. And it was just flat out fist fight. We're going to leave everything out here. We're going to earn our stripes with these people. I want these people to want to see it again. And whatever we got to do to get those people to come back, that's what we're going to do. And, when you get a guy like Bob Kelly, put your work over, it's amazing to you. It's hey, this is what I'm looking for. I'm looking for that nod saying, hey, kid, great job. Because like I mentioned before, when I started, I couldn't even get anybody to talk to me about being a wrestler. So to get that kind of thumbs up from a guy like Cowboy Bob Kelly, man, that meant the world to me. Okay. So, it's like anything else. You go and you look at it, you say, okay, what does your audience want? And when somebody asks me, biggest problem in independent wrestling is they don't even listen to their audience anymore. Those guys go to that ring and, hey, we're going to do A, B, C, D. We're going to choreograph something, or we're going to, and I'm sorry, brother man, what do you do if the audience doesn't like that? You know what they do? They just keep doing it. Doesn't matter. Somehow the performers have totally forgot that those are the people that buy the tickets. So I know one thing, and this is what I tell every young guy in the business. I don't give a rat's, brother. If you look like you are beating somebody's rear end, if you look like you're beating the brakes off somebody, they're going to be highly entertained. And you can do all the backflips you want to. And I'm not against, don't get me wrong, I worked in Mexico. I wrestled. One of the gimmicks that was used on me was I was called the American Luchador. Okay, I worked in Mexico with Psychosis and all those guys when they were young. Okay, almost went full time there. And I love Lucha Libre. Always did. But that's one match on the show in America. It can't be the whole show. And if you see one guy do a backflip, it ain't impressive to see 3 more guys do it in 3 different matches the same night. I'm way more impressed with the guy that goes out there and makes you believe.
The sad thing is that the wrestlers today, they want to do what they see. There's no rhyme or reason for what they do. And Saxon was talking about listening to the crowd and working the crowd. Me and Saxon worked so many matches together, and if you get a combination with that and just the charisma that the two of us brought into that ring, if one thing we were doing wasn't getting them, we could always just reference a spot in a different or different match, and we knew what we were doing 3 or 4 spots and didn't have to say shit, and would just go out there and beat the hell out of each other.
Being a worker.
And at the end of the night, we would be main event, and it was like nobody talked about us. And that's what my intention was when I wrestled, was to make sure nobody talked about anybody but me, whether I was in the first match, the third match, or the main event, is what got me over. I've made more merchandise sales as a heel whenever I was being a heel than I did as a babyface. And even he was talking about when I was working in Louisiana, just a little how the situation was. We were working at Mid-South Wrestling, and Saxon was co-owner of that promotion, and we're doing TV. So we did all of our TV tapings for a month, and one morning before the house show that and one night before, I'm in a best of 7 with Steve Anthony to be crowned the first ever Mid-South Cruiserweight champion. We're at Crazy Joe's house, which he's not with us anymore. And we were partying our butts off, man. Saxon was always the sober one. He had quit drinking and partying all that years ago. He partied with us, but was the sober one. Man, I drank 2 bottles of Golden Slugger that night, and made an ass out of myself. Went off on one of my buddies that's not with us anymore, Kerry Rockwood, and I don't remember none of this. I blacked out. You know what I'm saying? We're going TV the next morning, and I'm deathly drunk, hungover, still shit faced, fucked up. And Saxon and Crazy Joe come to me and they're like, dude, you realize this is the week that your segment, you've got a match every 15 minutes up until that last match.
Holy crap.
When you go
Wow.
the cruiserweight belt. And I'm like, no fucking way, dude. Every 15 minutes, he said, yeah. So man, I went out, worked my spot. They had me a chair sitting right there. We could come back through the curtains where Gorilla was in a bucket. And I'd sit down and they would throw it.
Man, I totally had forgot about that. Jeez, that was a long time ago.
IOG.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
4 different matches. And each time I come back to the same spot and puke for 15 minutes until I went out. So needless to say, I love the business a lot more now because I can remember it because I quit drinking Super Bowl Sunday will be 27 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Nice.
Congratulations, man.
Gas parties, I'm here to tell you.
Respect on that one, bro.
Rico.
No. So I just want to touch base real quick. Like Saxy, you're talking about like the high flying and stuff, and that's where I couldn't agree more, man. Like if it's in one match, maybe 2, okay, but when you have the whole card is nothing but high flying doing all this stuff, it's like for me, I want to see more of the technical wrestling. Like I want to get down to the grit.
Here's something that is interesting, and a lot of people never look at it this way. But when I was coming up back in the day, they used to have what they call variety shows. Okay, on a variety show, you had some dancing acts, then you had a comedian, you'd have a singer. Okay, and I want to say it might have been Dr. Tom Pritchard recently. I'm thinking Tom Pritchard, and he said, "Well, the problem nowadays is it's not they don't realize it's a variety show. Wrestling should be a variety show. Okay, you should have a little bit of this, then a little bit of that, then a little bit of this, and a little bit of that. And too many promotions don't understand that because they don't get it. You got to have something for everybody. Now, what I dig at my age, 17, 18-year-old young man ain't going to be interested in, okay? But that same guy at 35 don't want to see what an 18-year-old wants to see, okay? So when a promoter goes to promote a card, okay, because people used to say, oh, Saxon, he only likes guys that are great wrestlers. That is absolutely not true, okay? I think you have to have a little bit of everything. You got to have a slobber knocker. You got to have the high flyers. You got to have the guy that does comedy once in a while. Okay. One of the guys I trained was a phenomenal wrestler. He made his whole career doing comedy, a guy named Stan Sweetan. You could throw him, chicken shit, and he would turn it into chicken salad and then make everybody laugh at it. Okay. So he was always the smart guy that was doing something different. And I tell young guys constantly, okay, I see what you're doing, but I've also seen 20 other guys your age doing the same thing. And even as a fan, if you've hung around and you've watched independent wrestling over the years, let me tell you, whatever the hot item is, there's going to be 700 of them. I'll go all the way back to, I've seen more Road Warrior clones in my career when the Road Warriors were popular on TV. I've seen more guys that wanted to be Sabu. Same hair, same pants, same. Well, you can't be Sabu because there's already one that's making money at it. Then I remember, because I knew AJ Styles when AJ started in the business. Well, the minute he got a push, next thing you know, every kid's got kick pads, same shorts. Every one of them want to be AJ Styles. And I would look at him and I'm like, you realize they already have one of those. How are you going to do something that guy's already making money at? Okay, a promoter or a big company's going to look and say, well, shit, we already have that. Good example. And I don't watch a lot of modern stuff, but the smartest thing ever was Dominic Mysterio did not try to be his dad. He did something completely different. Now, I'm going to say The Office came up with that, but he has got to be one of the hottest products in the business at this time because he didn't try to be his dad. He tried to be something else. Dustin Rhodes couldn't sell you a ticket as good as he was And when I tell you Dustin is way better than Cody ever thought about being, he's way better than his dad ever thought about being. But the problem was Dustin Rhodes wasn't going to sell a ticket. But the minute he became Gold Dust, everybody got interested. He did something different, completely against the grain. And that is where a lot of people on the indie wrestling scene get ripped off, is because match 1 looks like match 2, which looks like match 3. And by the time you get to the main event, they've seen everything. It's the same match over and over and over and over. When I started, God forbid you do something later on the card that somebody else already did. Because, brother, you were going to get your ass chewed out. What are you doing? They already did that, you know? So, but we also watched other people's matches. We weren't standing there with headphones on in the back. We weren't on the internet. We weren't doing all that. We were watching, okay, what's being done. And I heard Ric Flair say that. He always said he would always go sit and watch the undercard matches before he worked when he was young, because he wanted to make sure he did something different. And for any young guy that may tune into this, if you're doing something that somebody upstairs is already doing, you're wasting your time. Do something different.
Yeah, I can add a little something to that. That Saxon can. The whole thing with giving them everything that they want to see in different matches. Me, as working as the professional, I was a straight professional wrestler. I was methodical. I didn't do anything hardcore. It was all, I was a legitimate wrestler. When I was Adrian Whisper, I did hardcore matches every time I wrestled in every show. You know what I'm saying? And it's, I can't really think of the word that I'm wanting to say, but probably how long had I been back from Virginia whenever we did St. Stanislaus? Maybe
maybe a year. Yeah.
About a year and a half.
Yeah. Something like that.
Do hardcore wrestling, bled all the time. We got Paul Bearer at the show. Road Dogg Jesse James was there. Orlando Jordan, a few other people were there from WWE. And they put me and my son, Jackson Slade, he was working under a mask at the time. And they put us opening the match, opening up the card. So me and Ashton go over into a total different locker room while we're by ourselves and nobody can see us. It's just me and him. We go over this match that we're going to do, and we go out and boom, we didn't hit the ropes for the first 4 or 5 minutes of the match. It was just straight up reverse, 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 reverse. The first time we hit the canvas was I took him in a headlock takedown, and the whole crowd stood up, 400 people. And I looked at my son and I said, "We got him, motherfucker." I said, "So let's go have some fun." So normally in a situation like that, in that opening match, you really don't go to the outside of the ring. You stay inside the ring. That's for progressions on into the night to build the card up. Well, we go to the outside, me and Ashton, back and forth, back and forth. I go to give him a suplex. He blocks it. He gives me the suplex. Boom, rolls me back in. We do our little gimmick. Well, I didn't know this at the time. The referee messed up the finish on it, and it had, like, my son had kicked out of my finish move. And Saxon's like, "What the fuck? He just kicked out of his, man, I'm taking that finish from him, God damn it, and he's kicking out of it." Well, he noted the ref had fucked up the spot. Well, as we're going back, Road Dogg sitting at the curtains, and Corey, our former sound guy, the big heavyset dude, he's doing sound and shit. And Saxon and them sitting there, and Road Dogg goes, "Who the fuck booked this shit? How the fuck do they expect us to go out there and follow that shit? Who booked this?" And fucking Saxon looked at him and he goes, "I did, but he normally don't do that. Normally, I've got 10 things to bitch at him as he's curtain." And only thing I can say is, why'd you go to the outside? You know what I'm saying? Different part of who I was, which was the professional. And I hadn't even done the professional gimmick yet. Everybody always said Adrian Whisper couldn't wrestle. All he did was hardcore. All he did was hardcore. I gave them that as Adrian Whisper. And then when they needed that wrestling fix, that old school 80s, 75, 80s wrestling fix, me and Saxon would go in there and I was a professional. You know what I'm saying? So there's a lot of spots on that card that allow sometimes those same spots to be done, but maybe modified in a way to where you make it your own, where the people look at it and they don't say like, well, damn, we done seen that in 4 matches.
All right.
Yeah. So Whisper, tell me about the finish to your 45-minute mat tables, ladders, and chairs match with Damian Wayne.
Oh my God. Didn't he have this same question?
Yeah, I want to hear about this from your point of view.
Hold on, that joint I just hit's got my mouth sticking to the couple of teeth I got left in my mouth. So hold on one second. So me and Wayne, how does me and him even got onto this part of wrestling in our little segment that we done? I was going to training at VCW, which is the promotion that was ran by the pedophile. Well, they started a whole bunch of shit with me, trying to get me my license stripped through Virginia. And that's a big long story. That's for another night. But Wayne, and he had a partner that was Mike Booth. And then there was a guy, Marty Reed, a guy, Johnny Reed, and a guy named Shane Falco. And we all worked at VCW. Well, they would have shows, and they wouldn't tell you were booked if you had a belt or was worked their show before that, the one previous, you were booked. So mugs, if they didn't have it in their book that they was booked, they were taking shows anywhere they could get them because they were green in the business at the time. They were. And, I had started working for the chick that was wanting to bring in all the workers like Rock and Roll Express, and so she could get some from them, pay them $1,000, and I snapped through a lot of that because I worked shows with Hoop and stuff before. And dude, I've known you take a booking for 150, 175, so you ain't getting paid $1,000 a night unless you're going to do TV with us tomorrow too. You know what I'm saying? Stuff like that. Well, she was fixing to run TV, and I went to Wayne, Booth, Marty, Johnny, Shane. There were 7 of us. And I said, dude, I got a lady that's wanting me to be her booker and her shot caller for the next 2 years. She's got paid TV. It's already paid for. All you got to do is go to your house, put on your calendar. Every Friday night, we're doing a live TV taping. Saturday, a house show. Sunday, we're for another promotion. Let me know now. And this was on going into the New Year's. We was at a New Year's Eve party at Marty Reed's house. And they all, before we left, had agreed to it. So we started a group called the 7 Stiffs. Me and Wayne, he was the bad guy. I was the good guy with the 7 Stiffs. And now we've tried to bring in the 7 Stiffs again as all good guys. But to the original story, me and Wayne worked each other everywhere we wrestled at. That's how we called it. That's what the promoters wanted. So that's how their main events would end, would be me and Wayne. And we had probably been working for a year, and he had the NCWA, that was the North Carolina Wrestling Association heavyweight title. I had Crew's heavyweight title, Crew's hardcore title. I was one half of the tag team champions with Crew. And me and Wayne was like, damn, dude, did just about every match you could think of. You know what I'm saying? what do you want to do for this big blow off for this first show we're going to do here? And I was like, we can do a 45-minute Ironman match. Most pinfalls in 45 minutes. And he said, well, hell, that's been done, before. I said, well, let's add some elements to the situation where we can have some fun. And hence, therefore, it became tables, ladders, and chairs, 45-minute Ironman match. So we was messing with his girlfriend's dad at the time. And they were like, hey, man, why don't y'all use my truck? Just destroy that son of a bitch, and then I'll get insurance for it. He was drinking, drunk, got him a good buzz. Me and Wayne said, man, you don't want us to do that. He said, oh, yeah, man, go ahead. Y'all do what you want to on it. I'm like, okay. So match starts, and as I come out last, Wayne comes out, and as I'm walking by her dad, he's like, oh, man, I changed my mind. Y'all can do a few things in it. Just don't mess it up. He said, I'm drunk and I wasn't thinking properly. I said, okay. So we wound up putting this truck in there. And before the match ever started, we had got with the armory people because a lot of times they would have chairs they were throwing away or tables they were throwing away. Or if they had some that was halfway decent, but they could sell them for a few bucks, we'd get them from them. And they just happened to be remodeling this armory at the time. So there was tables and desks and metal desk and wood desks. So we just started pulling stuff into the armory and setting it up in places throughout the arena. And we did the truck spot, and we were both up in the cab of the truck. Boom, 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 trading them. I cut him off, a hip on my knee to his gut. He bends over, boom, I catch him with a forearm to the back, lock him up for a suplex. And his dad, or his girlfriend's dad's truck, had one of them rubber liner beds in it, hard plastic. So it wasn't real comfortable to begin with once we took the suplex. But when we hit this mat and the recoil from the truck took Wayne and shot him straight out the back of the truck, man. And we're like, oh, my God. So we go around, boom, I hit him with a pin there. Then we go around. He goes to give me, we're working on a wooden desk, and we climb up on top of it. We're both trading licks. He cuts me off, gives me a pile driver, and I caught the sides of the desk as I was coming down and pushed myself off. If I wouldn't have did that, I'd have probably been like Stone Cold and Owen Hart. I would have probably broke my neck and really fucked me up. But just being conscious of the spot we were doing, it turned out decent. And we're at the 47-minute mark. And I tell Wayne, I said, man, I thought we were only supposed to go 45. I said, they just said 47 minutes. I hit him with my drive-by. I put him through a metal table and then hit the pin 1-2. That made it tied 2-2, and then I hit him with a elbow off of the wooden table into the metal table and took the final pin, and they ended it at 48 and I think 13 seconds, 48 minutes and 13 seconds. So yeah, that was a hell of a night. But
I guess Rico.
done some pretty worse ones and didn't even have many tools or toys in it to play with. When we went out there, we just beat the fuck out of each other.
Oh man. So like you guys were talking about stiff workers earlier. And I gotta ask, go back in the memory bank here. Who's the stiffest worker you've ever had where you're like, I don't want to be in the ring with that person again?
I don't think I've ever said I don't. Well, if I said I didn't want to be back in the ring with it wasn't because they were stiffs, because they were unsafe.
Okay.
Stiff never bothered me, and I guarantee you, it never bothered Whisper. He was drunk most of the time, so he didn't feel it anyway. No, I mean, if you're talking about guys who are just snug,
Unsafe.
one me and him will both agree on is going to be one man gang, or y'all might know him as Akeem.
Oh.
George. Well, in all fairness, George was huge and he was blind. He couldn't see. So he would throw haymakers because he didn't want to miss you. And I'm going to tell you, one of the worst licks I ever took was in Mexico. And the finish of the match, it was one man gang. A guy that was a tag team partner of mine at one time, Kevin Northcutt. He was about 6'6" and probably about 340 at the time. And a guy named Mombasa. He did a Sheik character. He also wrestled in Texas as Harold Harris. It was them on one side, and it was me, Solomon Grundy, and Dusty Wolf as Mr. Wrestling 3 on the other. And the finish, we go into a melee. They go down on the floor. I come off the top with a big frog splash on top of Harold. Well, the referee's tied up on the floor with Dusty, and gang gets the logging chain. And he's supposed to hit me with the logging chain and roll Harold on top of me, which is fine, till he hit me with the chain. And my life flashed before my eyes, rolled me over, and all I seen was blood from just acres of blood everywhere. And I'm like, oh my God, he's done split my wig open. I'm gonna have to go to a Mexican hospital, which I didn't want to do. And the funny thing was the 3 counts made, and I'm looking, well, Harold's on top of me, pinning me, and I realized his eyes are wide open, but he ain't moving. The next thing I realized is his teeth were missing.
The chain wrapped him.
The chain hit me in the head, almost knocks me out, but it whipped around me. It smacked him in the grill, knocked his teeth out. So literally, he couldn't get up off of me because he was unconscious. Pin was made, and I'll never forget the referee didn't speak English, but he could understand a little broken. And I said, "Oh my God, I'm hard weighed," and I'm like, "Oh man, I'm split open." And he, no, Mombasa. And he kept saying Harold's name, and I'm like, and that's when I looked at Harold and realized he had knocked Harold out cold and knocked out his front teeth. And don't get me wrong, George felt horrible, dude. It was just one of those things that happened. But Gang was one of those guys, brother. He didn't hold back, brother. He was gonna light you up. And I know he split Adrian's web one night in Mississippi.
Back of the dome.
Yeah, he was snug. Now I never felt unsafe working with Gang, but he's snug. Another guy, Vordell Walker, comes to mind immediately. Vordell is snug, always has been, and I love him for it. And he will tell you that I bitch too much about him being stiff because he's like, brother, I had to be in matches with you, and you weren't nice either. I'm like, well, I was fighting for my life, son. But
a lot of things I didn't realize about Gang George was he would keep his glasses on, and he would going out the locker room door and still have his glasses on, and he'd have to be reminded, hey, take your glasses off. So when he took his glasses off, it was 10, 15 minutes before that mug's vision really was good and able to see.
You know, him and Duggan said Bill Watts would book them against each other because they were both blind, and the boys would sit and watch them just throw haymakers at each other because they were afraid they were going to miss. And so they would just he would book them because the matches would just naturally be so stiff. And I get it. I mean I totally understand, but you know, there's been so many guys over the years just that were just, you know, but we worked that way. So I guess when you're a snug worker, I'm gonna say what Vordell always said. I've never hit anybody harder than I was willing to get hit. Amen. And that was kind of always my theory too, brother. If we're working that way, let's just work that way. Just be safe.
Mm-hmm.
We'll beat crap at each other, but be safe.
Right. So, you mentioned Vordell Walker, and we mentioned Damian Wayne, and I'll never forget. I think it was at the hotel where you guys had when you guys were having shows at the building next to the hotel.
The Travelodge, yeah.
Travelodge. Never forget this match. It was Vordell Walker, Damian Wayne. I can't remember what it was for, but they were on the outside beating the piss out of each other. I mean, it was like bam, 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 bam. And I think the spot was supposed to happen where Damian Wayne was supposed to be thrown over into a table, and the table was supposed to break. Well, Vordell picked him up, as Vordell does, and he threw him through the table. The table didn't break. The table went down, like one end of it went down, and Damian Wayne's throat hit the next table. So, and I was like, holy shit! But it was real. But they got up and just continued beating the shit out of each other.
Well, and you got to understand, Damian Wayne working Vordell, that probably happened 500 times over the
Wow.
years.
He's
So
talking
they had wrestled each other many times.
Saxon. He's talking about the show we did in the back building at the
Yeah. Wasn't that you, Vordell? It was all
Yes,
four of y'all.
it might have been you, Bordell, Jackson, and you.
Jackson. Yeah. That one was rough. I remember thinking, damn, I'm glad I'm not in this.
That spot was unreal. I was
Yeah.
like, what the hell is going on here? But I will say this. One of you, either Adrian said this or John said this. If we could suspend your belief for one moment, and that's what that did. It was like, oh my God, this is so real. This is so cool. This is so,
Sure.
What the young kids don't understand is they still want to believe. That's why they come.
Yeah.
XIW, get me wrong, we love the kids, but XIW was always, in my way of thinking, was the kids always get to do what they want. They get to go out to the shows with their parents, this, that, and what have you. When do the parents get to have a night of their own? You know what I'm saying? So XIW was always rated R, and it was bring whatever you want to drink tonight. We got the mixers for it. You come check out some wrestling, and this be a night for the adults. You know what I'm saying? And then it come down to they realized that what they were seeing at XIW wasn't really much worse than what Marvel comic movies are. You know what I'm saying? You still hear the birds, you still see blood, you still see fighting. And I've always thought the best way to suspend that disbelief of the people in the audience was make it as real as possible. You know what I'm saying? And that's XIW. And they always talk about receipts. You know what I'm saying? People getting the receipt back because you hard weighed them or you sputtered them one time, waffled the shit out of them. At XIW, it's everybody out there waffling each other. You know what I'm saying? That's how you suspend that disbelief, is when you get that first match out there and they start whooping each other's ass right there in front of the fans, and they hear those punches and they hear those slaps to the chest and shit. They really start realizing, okay, XIW is some real fight shit here. What's going on?
Yeah. Rico?
Yeah. Now, so I was gonna say, man, was because I recently just started being able to watch XIW because I just moved to Florida, and past couple of shows I've been to, like you guys, huge props sitting there. The first match, something you mentioned earlier, Whispers, that first match kind of like it does set the tone to let you know what the night's gonna be of. And I just looked at him and I was like, damn. I was like, all right, man, these boys putting it on, man.
Yeah.
Well, you've
Just going at it.
privilege of seeing a good show yet. You know what I'm saying? The show before this last one was our tag team tournament, and that wasn't the normal aura of a XIW show. You know what I'm saying? So that everybody that night collectively come together, that was pretty much this tight-knit office that XIW has, and said, man, this wasn't XIW. We got to do something on the next show. We got to start getting XIW. We got to get that feel back. And last month it was got that feel back. Now you're gonna have Chaos in the Cage, and
Ooh, can't wait, man.
I talked to the rest of the people in the audience, but what my way of thinking, starting out XIW that night, is normally we do 2 matches and then we set the cage up. I say we set the cage up at the beginning of the show, and then every match that's there that night is in the cage. I don't give a shit if it's a title or not. That way we waste 35, 40 minutes of the fans' time, and we just go out there. If you can't top that, then I don't need you at the next show. If you can't top that, I don't need you at the next show. You know what I'm saying? So you fixing to see a whole different feel of XIW December 20th. Bet that.
Nice. So I got some videos.
Man.
I got some video. Rico sent me one video. We'll play that after, but I'm going to give John. I did some research on you, John, and here's a video.
Okay.
Here's a video that we're going to watch, and we can talk about it.
Oh, that was old Purple Haze.
Where'd he go?
Oh, he done disappeared. He said, "That's it. I'm done."
Man, look. So I guess hopefully he'll come back and watch this. But wait, Adrian, since you stuck around, I got this video.
Well,
Oh, here
before
he
you, is that the one that I sent?
I'm going to play that. Yeah.
Are we
Okay,
back?
I was going to
Okay,
ask
I'm
him a
sorry.
question. I just want to know. Oh, go ahead, Saxon.
I accidentally hit my screen. I had to log back in.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
That was Purple
Oh, no.
Haze. I just showed a video clip. Did you see that?
Yes, I did. Yeah.
Man, when I watched that, I was like, technical. And I gotta say, dude, as much as I give you shit and what you're at XOW now, I watched that match. There's another match that I can show you. I think it's right here. So we got two types of matches. One, you were technical, and then the other one, you were hardcore. So I love the variety you brought to the business as when you were young in the business as a performer. So can you talk about those two matches and how you?
Yeah. It's funny because the one, Purple Haze, man, what a great talent. He trained with Mr. Hughes out of Atlanta, even though he was from New Orleans, and really, really great pro wrestler. Technical guy, could do just about anything in the ring, kind of a new age type guy. The funny thing is right there, I'm probably 50 years old.
Really?
Yes, that is.
Wow.
And the reason I know is because I'm wearing camo trunks, and I wore those when I was at TCW. And I finished up with them when I was right at 52,
Really?
which a lot of guys didn't know that. Even the guys I was working at TCW with didn't realize how old I was. The other one was pretty much around close to the same time frame. I don't know if you realize who that is I'm doing the fist fight with.
Tim Storm, right?
Tim Storm. Yep.
Yeah.
Former NWA world champ. And, here's kind of what I just based on. People would always say, okay, what's the John Saxon character? And I would say exactly. And the reason I would say that is because I didn't really know what the John Saxon character was. I heard this when I was very young in the business. Two things that if somebody says something or I hear something, a lot of times if I think it's really relevant, it'll stick in my head. And one thing I heard Jake Roberts say once, somebody asked him, did you work to the level of the guy you were working with, or did you make him work to your level? And his response was, I always work to the level of my opponent. Okay. And I spent a lot of time with Jake Roberts. Okay. Really when he was in real rough shape, so I always remembered that. And then the other was I heard an interview when he was very young. Most people didn't even really know who Chris Benoit was yet. And they were asking him about training. If you were going to train to be a professional wrestler, where would you go? And you would think immediately he'd say, hey, the dungeon, because that's where he was trained by Stu Hart. And that's not what he said. He said, if I was a young man trying to be in this business, I would go and see Boris Malenko. And I would go to the Malenkos and train. And they said, why? And I want to say it was Mike Tenay that was interviewing him. He said, well, the reason I'm going to say that is because they can teach you to do everything. If you want to learn Japanese style, they can teach that. If you want to learn to do an American style catch as catch can, they can teach you that. If you want to learn the Brit style, of wrestling. They can teach that. So his thing was be well-rounded. You need to be able to do everything. And the one thing Dusty Wolf taught me early on, he said, find a way to make yourself valuable. Okay. And to me, the way you make yourself valuable is you learn how to do everything. So if you needed a hardcore match, I can do that. If you need a Japanese style match, I can do that. If you needed me to go out there and work with a Mexican, first time I worked Hector Guerrero, he called about 700 high spots in the opening of the match, just trying to get over, thinking he was going to intimidate me. And I looked at him. I said, okay, well, you're Mexican. Are we doing this from the right or the left side? And he kind of froze. Oh, you can. I said, oh, yeah, I've worked Mexico. I can do whatever you need to do. Okay. So, and the funny thing is, I don't know if you've ever seen any of the TCW stuff. There's a ton of it on YouTube. Some of my best work, actually.
Okay.
I'm 50 years old, and I did a best of 7 series with a guy named Jason Kincaid. And Kincaid is a phenomenal talent.
Okay.
And I don't know how this happened, but the announcer at the time, Brian Thompson, the original announcing team was Brian Thompson and Chris Cruz. And our commentator was Ken Resnick from the old AWA. And somewhere in one of my matches, they called me the Redneck Dean Malenko. And once they did that, I was stuck with that moniker. And I kind of hated it, but I kind of didn't. Because what they were saying is he's a redneck version of a guy who has some exceptional wrestling talent.
Right.
Because in those matches at that time, what they wanted was the tech guy. Okay. They wanted the pro wrestler, go out there and do that style. So that's what I was doing. And I got compared. So that was the thing. Redneck Dean Malenko is what they called me. And I thought it was hilarious. And I was kind of like, man, I don't know if I should be insulted but it's such a great, it was kind of an honorable term. So when I go to work with a guy like Purple Haze, I know what he does. And what does he do? He wrestles. He's not a hardcore guy. You ain't going to see him doing, anything like that. That's not his forte. Matter of fact, I wrestled him one night and he was a fan favorite and I'm a fan favorite, and it was driving him nuts. He didn't want to do it because he thought, man, what's the audience going to do? Being a vet guy, I already knew what they were going to do. I said, well, we're going to go out there and dazzle them with sit-outs, reversals, and stuff that this card, nobody else is going to do on this card. And it's not that they have to dislike either one of us. They're just going to appreciate what we do. And we went out there and we had a phenomenal wrestling match. It was full of reversals, things of that nature. And both of us being fan favorites, when we finished and shook hands, the place was just thrilled. They saw an exceptional wrestling match. That was the match we needed to be that night. Yeah. And then you go to a place like Brookhaven, which is where me and Tim, I was a huge baby face for Josh Newell. My whole career. It was the only place that I was a baby face the whole time he had me. He would not let me be heel. Okay. He said, no, you are that guy for me. Okay. Everybody's got an uncle like you. You're kind of rowdy. You'll fist fight everybody, but everybody kind of likes you. He said, these rednecks, they identify with you. You're from the South. They know it. They dig that. So we got to go out there and have a fist fight. So, okay, well, if that's what we're going to do, and it's funny because the whole time I was in the business, I love the fist fights. Okay, I do. Man, look, we've had them. Me and Whispers had some in Louisiana. We've had some up in the Delta of Mississippi, where it was just, we're going to go out there and we're going to fist fight. Okay, but we've also had times where it's, what, we're going to go out here. Now we're going to have a wrestling match, and I love both. And I enjoyed performing and doing both. So my thing was, then it's okay. Now you're going to work with this kid, and this kid does backflips and this and that. Okay, guess what? I can do all that too. So it just kind of ties back into, I didn't want to be one thing. I wanted to try to be all things. Gotcha. And that's just my personality as a person. I don't know how somebody just accepts being second best at anything. If you're passionate about it, why in the hell? And I tell young guys this all the time. Okay, let's say you're stuck on the independents. Do you want to be at the bottom of the indies, or do you want to be at the top of it? because I want to be at the top of it. Even if I'm on the indies and I'm not at a major company, I want to be at the top of it. I don't want to be the guy at the bottom of it. So how do I do that? I go out there, work harder, I study harder, I train harder. I do whatever I have to do to make sure that I stay at that level. And it's funny because there's so many times that once you become that guy, you have to be that guy all the time. And that's a part of the business that people don't understand. Fans will never understand. Okay. I've had 5 standing ovations in my career. When I say, I mean legitimate standing ovations with Steve Anthony, 5 of them. Yeah. Okay. Where the whole place was standing up. Yep. And the funny thing is, out of all the matches I've had, I can still remember those towns distinctively. Okay. And it was, holy crap, did we just do that again? And you get that feeling of accomplishment that the audience that bought that ticket, that spent that money, feels like they just got every dime's worth out of what you did.
Absolutely.
And that's regardless of what your style is. Okay. There's guys out there and I'll go to Cactus Jack. You're looking at a guy that on the front side, I'd have looked at coming out of a wrestling school for Dominic Danucci, and I'd have been like, dude, this guy ain't going to make a dime. So what did he do? He said, okay, I'm not attractive. I'm big, but that's all I am. I'm not in shape. I'm not this. But I kind of look like Charles Manson, so maybe I should just be that guy. And he latched onto that, and guess what? He became a millionaire.
Yeah.
And that is where I always tell anybody, get in this business, get in where you fit in. And too many young guys do not understand that. Okay. They just don't get it. It's like, hey man, show up ready to go. And if the promoter needs this, I'll give you a good example of that. Y'all know who Petey Williams is. Mm-hmm. Do you know how Petey Williams got a push in the wrestling business? I was there when it happened. Okay. We're at TNA doing a taping. They were doing Team Mexico, Team Canada, Team USA. Teddy Hart faked an injury in the back, acting like he was hurt because he didn't want to work again. Well, they were panicking in the back because they had another match, and it was supposed to be Team Canada against Team Mexico, and Teddy Hart was supposed to be in the match. And I'm rolling around, act like he's dying because you have to know Teddy. He's a drama queen. Okay. And they were panicking. And they're all looking like, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? Terry Taylor's like, what are we going to do? Pete Williams just walks up. He said, look, man, I just wrestled, but I can work that guy. And they all kind of just looked at him. He's like, man, I can do it. So they said, shit, they let him do it. And what Petey Williams did is he walked out there with a Mexican guy and they blew the lid off the place. When I tell you, from that moment on, Petey Williams was just a side note. He was one of Scott Diamore's guys from Canada. Little guy, great shape, but nothing to, little bitty dude. Nobody's going to pay much attention to him. But he stepped up, took an opportunity, said, hey, I can do this. And he went out there, and I tell you, they killed it. They killed it. And from then on, he was a push guy at TNA. They were like, Jesus, man, this kid's phenomenal. So once again, it's that thing of what can you do? And this is for all the young guys. If you're in the industry, you take this to heart, man. You ain't got to listen to me. But I'm going to tell you this. Those pre-called matches you do because you love the Young Bucks or you love the Kenny Omegas of the world and all that, and nothing against them. They've all made money, okay? But you're on the independents, man, okay? They all got lucky enough to get hired by a company that pays them to do that match. Yeah. Because Tony Khan's a mark for that type of stuff. Now, the general majority of wrestling fans are not, okay? That's why AEW doesn't make money and WWE does, because it's still, and don't get me wrong, nothing against AEW. Okay. I have friends that work there and I'm thrilled. Lance Archer is a dear friend of mine. We talk to each other on a regular basis. Great guy. And I'm thrilled he's still getting paid by them. Okay. But here's the thing. If that's all you can do, and that's all 700 other guys can do, how are you going to get a job doing anything? There's 150 other guys can do this. Yeah. being a worker, and we use that term differently. Being a worker, when I came in, meant, hey, this guy can go out there and do what needs to be done. Okay, it's not, hey, he can choreograph a match. Hell, you can teach it. You can teach a monkey to do that. Okay, it's, can you change gears when you get out there? Can you listen to your audience? Can you feel when I'm in the back and a guy comes in? Hey, did you see that? You know what I tell them 99% of the time? Nope, I didn't have to, because the whole time you're wrestling, kid, I'm listening. I don't have to see what you're doing. I have to hear the audience's response.
Yeah.
Okay, which I listen to the whole show. I'm always listening.
Wow.
The minute something pops off, I'm like, okay, now I can watch the video later and see what they actually did, but I ain't got to see it. I got to hear it.
Okay.
And when you get out there and you change gears like that and you work different matches, you learn, okay, there's a formula to this. There's a reason why we do it this way. There's a reason why you don't do it that way. And the only thing that teaches that is experience. And don't get me wrong, I will tell young guys in a minute, I didn't invent any of this. Okay. This was all given to me by veteran guys who said, hey, no, we don't do that. If you do that, you're gonna get heat. Here's why. No, wait and do it this way. And when I started, those are the guys I wanted to talk to. I would sit in locker rooms, and I know people can't believe it because I was quiet back then. But I was blessed because early on in my career, I was in locker rooms with guys who had drew big money. And when I say big money, JYD, Tommy Wildfire Rich, One Man Gang, the Samoans, guys who had made real money. So I always wanted to know what they knew. I tell people I learned how to babyface from Tommy Wildfire Rich and the Junkyard Dog. JYD was the biggest babyface in the history of the South.
The only black man that could go to a KKK rally and
sell Polaroids. That's right. I told him that to his face once. And here's the thing, Tommy Rich, if the drinking and the partying wouldn't have gotten away, that was a guy that owned Georgia. I mean, flat out, brother, he was packing them in when he was 20 years old. And he understood. So what I want to do is get in his head, get in these guys' heads. How did y'all do that? Why did you do it that way?
Right. Yeah.
You know, and those were all those old guys heavily influenced me. But as the business evolved, I evolved with it.
Yeah.
Because it does not stay the same, and it can't.
Right.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I tell guys that, and this is for all the vet guys who are just jackasses. I don't care how y'all did it back then. The way y'all did it then ain't gonna work now. And for all the indie guys out there struggling, they also don't have the advantage of having TV pushing them. A lot of these guys got to go out there into an arena in front of crowds that don't know him, ain't never seen him. They don't know if he's a good guy, bad guy. So they don't give a shit. They look like, oh, who's this dork? Who's this guy? He ain't, you haven't even earned anything. Whereas the vet guys who were working territories, by the time they walked out in the arena, everybody had seen them on TV. Even if they were a job guy, even if they were a guy that was putting people over. Okay, when Marty Lundy wrestled for Bill Watts, he wasn't Arn Anderson. He was just Marty Lundy. Decent wrestler, got beat on TV all the time. But when he walked out into a Coliseum doing the house shows, people knew who he was. So, yes, you're going to get a reaction. Okay? These kids don't have that advantage anymore. Okay? They don't. They got to walk out there and try to earn it. And nobody mentors to them. And I tell vet guys, are you just going to bitch or are you going to teach them something? Because if you're just going to bitch about them, stay home.
The sad thing is those kids, this generation, they're never going to understand or have that feeling of that standing ovation that really validates doing. And I can say one time in the 33 years that I wrestled, I had really one true standing ovation, and Saxon was there. I brought him to North Carolina with me, and the maestro that worked for WCW, which was Gorgeous George's actual grandson, he was there that night. I think Barb was there that night, and I wasn't even wrestling. Saxon wrestled, worked on the card that night, but I came in as a special guest referee in Damian Wayne's match. He was defending his title, and me and Wayne had still had that feud for 2 years. Well, I had left and went back to the Mississippi area, and I was gone from the Mid-Atlantic area for 2 years. When we came back that night and I come out and cut my promo to do the special guest referee, the fans cut me off and for 4 minutes chanted, welcome back, welcome back. And it was the whole freaking audience, and they were all on their feet. And it was a moment in my career that everything that I had done up to that point, I knew was being pretty much giving me my flowers right then.
Sure.
And if it never happened again, it wouldn't bother me because I got to experience that true feeling at least one time in a career. You know what I'm saying? And nowadays they never will understand that. They never will get that satisfaction of saying, damn, everything I did do was meant to be. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Mhm.
So Rico sent me this video. So I got a couple of videos for you, Adrian. But Rico sent me this video that it's going to take us back a bit. Okay, so we're going to go back a little bit. So here we go. I'll play a little bit of it, then I got another little bit to play. So
to the killing field of Pascagoula, Mississippi. The place where history rewrites itself. You didn't see it in Hosford. You didn't see it in Worcester, Massachusetts. No, right here at the killing fields of Pascagoula, Mississippi. The rebirth of New Jack. Adrian Whisper made that call. That's right. But I got a voicemail. So I scratched my head. New Jack. Where you at, New Jack? Give a brother a call. So I left my message and I waited. About Adrian Whisper. But there's one thing you won't find out on any search page. And that's more coaches, baby. That's the demon of deceit. The sick and twisted individual that lies within Adrian Whisper. You see, 7 years ago, New Jack, you planted a seed in the gangster destruction, Adrian Whisper. And that seed soaked up nothing but the blood of the victims that Marcosius laid out in his wake of destruction.
oh,
That night.
I was there.
Let me tell you something about that night, man. Earlier that morning, me and Marty Reed was sitting at the house, and we was waiting on Saxon and them to get there. We were going to do our little pre-show production at my house and then go to the building. Well, I'm sitting there, and my cell phone's sitting beside me, and it starts ringing. And I pick it up, and I'm like, damn, I don't know who this number is. Shit. So I answered it. I go, hello? He said, is this Whisper? I said, yeah. He said, this is New Jack. I said, excuse me? He said, this is New Jack. I said, New Jack from ECW. He said, yeah, motherfucker. Do you know any other New Jack? I said, no, not really. He said, well, I got a boy that I worked a show with last night in Massachusetts, and he says, you run a company that I'd probably like to work at. I said, well, first off, who's the guy that told you this? And he said, Dallas Riley. I said, oh, okay, yeah, he worked for me a couple of times. I said, so what you calling for? He was like, I was calling to see if I had a spot on the card tonight. I said, well, how much? He told me how much. He was at my house in about 4 or 5 hours. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Well, that night it was fans bring the weapons match. And I was telling him, I said, I don't know what all they're going to bring. So there might be some crazy ass shit out there. There might not be nothing. I don't know yet. He said, oh, it's all good. So he goes out when we do our intro, and that's what he's synonymous for with ECW. It's having all the fans throw the chairs into the ring. So he walks around the whole barrier of the ring telling everybody to start throwing their chairs. Well, people that were driving by on the main road sees this happening, and they call 911 and tell them that we're having a riot at the fairgrounds, that they need to get the police out there. And during the middle of this match, my wife at the time, she's filming it and everything for us, and 5 cop cars roll up under the pavilion, dude. 4 or 5 cops jumping out of each one of them, popping batons, getting ready to fuck some shit up. Well, he sees my wife recording, and he gets up behind her, and he's like, ma'am, is everything okay? She goes, yeah. She goes, excuse me, ma'am, is this supposed to be happening? She goes, I guess. He said, is everything all right? And she bumped into him, and the camera started just doing like that. And she said, look, man, my old man's going to be mad as shit if I don't get this video for him. He said, she said, I'd appreciate it if you would just get the fuck out the way. He said, well, I need to speak to the owner. She said, I'm the owner. He said, you own this? She said, yes. What the fuck? What part of get out my way don't you understand? And the cop says, is this supposed to be happening? She said, it is now. He said, is everything good? She said, yeah, if you get the hell out my way. So at this point, they realized that it wasn't no big old riot at the fairgrounds. So they just all prop up on the guardrails and start watching the rest of the show. You couldn't have paid for advertisement to happen like that.
Oh, right. So
that is great.
Jackson Slade says, I hated cleaning all that crap up that night. So
we waited till the next morning to clean it up.
So I know it's getting late, guys, but Rico, do you have anything else?
Shoot, I'm just gonna throw this out there. If y'all ever need a special guest referee, holler at your boy.
We will keep that in mind, Cat Daddy.
I got a couple things.
Fire away, man.
Shoot questions, I guess. So, chair shot or stepping on Legos? What would be better?
Shit, I never did the Legos thing. The only Legos I stepped on was my kids', and they suck. But
okay.
I'm gonna say depends on who's slinging the damn chair.
I would have to say depends on whether you're taking it to the head or the back, because it hurts 10 times worse to the back.
Well, if you can see behind me, there's right above the Marvel picture.
Yeah.
Adrian will know that chair. That's the chair from the first XIW that I've been to, and still the blood's on that chair, still the dents on that chair.
That's the chair that I form fitted around Slade's head.
Yeah, yes it is. So both of you, John, you can go first. When you're done wrestling, when you're done with XIW, being a manager, what do you hope the fans remember John Saxon for?
Man, for me, I hope every time somebody bought a ticket that they felt like they got their money's worth.
What about you, Whisper?
I always like to question why I got into wrestling instead of because my answer always just threw people out for a loop. But I would have to say if I wanted them to think one thing about me was when they come to XIW, they got every bit of me. You know what I'm saying? That show is every bit of me. It's every bit of John Saxon. It's every bit of the redneck or the Rough Rider Ref Teddy. It's every bit of Jackson Slade. You know, it's more fulfilling to me to know that at the end of the day, maybe we didn't make no money, but hey, I had a great time. The fans had an even better time. And at XIW, I'm always saying, if I hadn't said it once, I've said it a dozen times. We create moments at XIW that last forever. And coming in December the 20th, there's going to be one more historical moment made that's going to really impact somebody's life. And I can't say too much about it now. It's going to be revealed at the show on December 20th. But we're in for a good show. You can bet on that.
So we were talking, and I think John might have mentioned he'd always want to be, if you're doing what you guys are doing, you always wanted to be at the top. So XIW in the independent scene, I know where I think you guys are. We're as promoters, as people that run the show. Do you guys see you guys at the very tippy top of the independent scene? And if not, what are some things you guys are going to do in 2026 to get you guys over that hump?
Man,
our roster by far
yeah,
is the most superior roster on the independent scene within a 500-mile radius, probably.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with that, man. Look, if you run down the roster, I mean, I see what everybody does, okay? And top to bottom, I would put our roster against anybody.
Okay.
You know, straight up, I feel that way. If I didn't, then I'm doing something wrong.
Okay.
You know, and that's kind of how I feel about it, man. Because we just look at the pedigree. I mean, Jackson Slade's been Jesus. What's he been wrestling? 17 years by now.
Yep.
Romeo and Salazar, both vets. I mean, Romeo's been in the business 15 years. He's not a newbie.
Right.
And then Malik Avalon, another guy that's got to be close to a 20-year spot.
Yeah.
And even though we do have some young guys, man, you got a lot of really traveled. You know, Malik Avalon did a bunch of stuff with ROH at one time.
Yeah.
I mean, there are a lot of guys that could have landed on a roster at AEW. They could have landed at TNA. They could have landed at WWE. And a lot of times people don't understand, you know, those indie guys are just as good. I remember when top guys now were just independent guys. You know, they just happen to be in the right place at the right time. So, dude, I feel really good about our roster, straight up. Matter of fact, and let me give one shout, because the workhorse of that roster to me doesn't get none of the recognition she should, and that's La Brava.
Baby.
And let me tell you what, if there is one woman I would rave about, and I'm going to tell you why, because that gal shows up, she shows out, she lives for the business, and she always fits in. She gets in wherever she fits in, every event. Yeah. Okay. And that's where I'm going to give mad props to her for just being a professional and Controversial Inc. period. Very, very professional crew.
Yeah, very good. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You asked where we thought XIW stands with the other promotions. I'm a very humble person. I'm not a prick by any means, but I can be a dick if need be. You could have Ric Flair on your card, but if nobody knows that he's there, they're not going to come. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So I would hold XIW. I wouldn't say we're the top company in Florida, but I would say we rank in the top 5 companies of Florida until we get our show sold out and everybody knows about XIW. Then will I have a leg to stand on to say that we're the best? You know what I'm saying? But as far as our roster, it's the best one that you can walk into because everybody in there has the same goal in mind. They're all professionally trained. 95% of them are workers that wrestle in Louisiana. We're all blood tested. You know what I'm saying? So guys are safe to go out there and not have to worry about working with some jabroni. Never had no blood work. He accidentally gets hard weight and catches some disease. You know what I'm saying? So
Right.
at XIW, you're going to see a lot of things that you're not going to see at a normal show, which sets our show above a lot of them. You know what I'm saying? But like I said, for me to say we were the best, that'd make me a little egotistical, and we're not there yet by any means. But we're not going to stand down. That's for sure. Our goal is
Got to stay hungry in the wrestling business at all times, man.
Okay. And
Always.
Rico can attest to this. We talk about this on the way home from this show. I believe I could probably say, like, there's several of your roster, in my opinion, we're going to see in the big stage sometime soon.
Jackson Slade is a star just waiting to happen, people.
I was going to say that. He's one of those guys. I mean, I could say, I don't want to name drop because I know who I think could. I think Jackson Slade's probably one of it's that just waiting to get.
Yep.
You know, and I give him shit. I hope he's watching still, but I give him shit because when I met him, he was in the feud with his dad, right? It was, you know, and at that point in time, Adrian Whisper was the biggest asshole. He was a bigger asshole than you, John, because at that time, it was the biggest asshole, right? And him and Jackson, I was like, Jackson's a baby face, blah, 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 blah. And then when he turned heel and joined you, John, I hated him. Right?
All that was a culmination that come from Saxon at one brief moment.
Yeah.
Even though I was that dickhead, people relate to me and they wanted to be behind me so much.
Yes.
And Saxon was like, dude, we need to flip this whole script. We can get a whole nother gear out of this. You become baby mother.
Yes. And you guys, I guess that's what I'm trying to say, Adrian and John. You guys flipped it and it's still going. And now everybody's like, you know, where's Jackson at? What's he going to do next? What's he going to do next? Where's he at? I mean, I wish, and I know you guys, it's money and whatever, it takes time to do a promotion. I can't wait for you guys have suspended me for 2 months, right? You go month, we got to wait a month, right? And you got to wait a half of a month. And I'm like,
that's the whole point.
I'm like, let's get going, right? Let's go. I even had a chance to interview Micah Madrid, Sylvia Sanchez from over in Texas, TWA.
Oh, Rudy Boy's girl. Yeah.
Yeah. And I told her, man, you guys got to come through Panama City. You got to get a hold of her.
Well, the funny thing is I talked to Rudy about that probably about 6-7 months ago. Me and Rudy, you know, I'll give you a really good quick story. Okay. And this is one of the amazing wrestling stories for me. This is very personal to me. Okay. When I broke in '89, I had a little run with the IWF and they shut down. Well, I went to work for the local Coliseum back home. Well, WCW came in. Ron West, who had formerly been a referee and a booker for Southeastern and then Continental, was working for WCW. And they came in to the Coliseum. Well, I'm working at the Coliseum at the time, and WCW came in. And the show was over with. Everybody had left. I met Ron that afternoon. He said, hey, I heard you've been involved in wrestling. We got to talking. And Ron was a really nice guy. And I said, yeah, I worked with Ed Falk. And he knew Ed from Continental. And he said, are you still? I said, I'm not right now. But, you know, I work here for the Coliseum. So at the end of the night, they're tearing down. There's a short, stocky Mexican guy. I meet him, Rudy Boy Gonzalez. He is doing opening matches and slinging ring. When the show was over, I walked out to the ring and I got to talking, and it was an old man tearing the ring down. This guy had to be in his 70. And I thought, geez, man, this is an old dude to be doing this. And I walked out and just started talking to him. I said, hey, man, I said, do you like your job? He said, why you ask? And I said, well, I'm just curious. I said, I got a little taste of the wrestling business. He said, kid, let me tell you this. I've done everything in this business. I've refereed, I've wrestled, I've been a promoter, I've been this, I've been that. He said, I've done it all. I said, okay. He said, you thinking about being in the business? I said, yeah. He goes, let me give you every reason why you shouldn't do that. So he gives me all these reasons why you shouldn't be in the wrestling business. He said, you still doing it, huh? I said, yes, sir. He goes, well, I'm going to give you the best advice I can ever give you. Be one of the boys. If you're going to be in this business, just be a wrestler. Roll in, do your job, get your gear, get your money, go to the next town. I said, okay. I said, I'm feeling you. I didn't know what he meant at that time, but I said, well, man, I appreciate the info. Well, about that time, Rudy Gonzalez comes walking up, and I had met him earlier in the day before he did an opening match, a dark match that night. And he was telling me how they let him do a dark match on a pay-per-view. And so the old man, I shook his hand. He goes, what's your name? I said, I gave him my shoot name. He said, well, it's nice to meet you. I'm Joe Blanchard. And I froze. And I said, wait a minute. Excuse me? I said, hold on. You're smoking Joe Blanchard. He said, yeah. You heard of me? I said, yeah. You own the San Antonio territory. He said, yeah, that's right. I said, you Tully Blanchard's dad? He said, yeah. And you could have knocked me over with a feather. Here's a guy that was on USA Network before Vince and legitimately had done everything in the wrestling business. And I found out later that's how Rudy got the job with WCW. Was they had hired Joe. Joe had kind of fell on hard times. Tully said, hey, Dad really needs a job. And so they gave him the job of setting up and tearing down the rings. Of course, he was older and he needed help. So Rudy was one of his guys. Well, one of his other guys he broke in was Dusty Wolf. Well, Dusty Wolf is one of the guys that mentored to me. Okay. So the minute he said, hey, I'm Joe Blanchard, I was like, holy crap, you got to be kidding me. And so me and Rudy go, like I said, we go way, way, way back. That was our first introduction. Nice. And then, of course, I've known him, ever since then. And of course, once I hooked up and started working with Dusty, they broke in together, and both from San Antonio. And here's the thing. If there was ever a better situation for wrestling, if I had $1 for every time I seen it go full circle with a guy like that, and I've seen it a lot. And I remember leaving the arena thinking, wow, that was Joe Blanchard, and he's tearing down rings. He's still doing this. So I'll tell you what Akbar always said. Skandar Akbar always said this. Hey, kid, when you're going to get out of the wrestling business? When you die or nobody will book you anymore. And guess what? That pretty much sums it up. Very few guys ever completely get away from it. I did for 7 years. And that asshole in the upper right-hand box there got me to come out and watch a show or two for him. And here we are, Yeah. And it's been a blast. It's been a blast. It totally has.
Saxon can tell you a lot better stories than that. If one of y'all ask him about his blackmail briefcase that he used to have, does he still have it?
Well, funny thing you say. Funny thing you ask. Hey, do you still have that blackmail briefcase?
Yeah, of course I do. That's a long story. There's so many.
Man, it's been a blast, guys. Anything you need to say about the upcoming promotion? Anything you need to say about XIW before we close the show? Because ultimately, I'm going to tell you what, guys. I've been waiting to get you guys on the show to hear your stories. Rico and I talk on the way back. It's like a 2-hour drive on the way back. So let me tell you, fans out there, whoever's going to watch this afterwards or whoever's watching it now, if you live within 2 hours of Panama City Beach on December 20th, Chaos in the Cage, you'd be stupid not to make that trip. You'd be dumb as shit. If you're a wrestling fan and you think you've seen Extreme, you haven't until you came to XIW. I'm telling you. And not only that, I'm telling these guys, they welcome everybody. I mean, I'm a big advocate for XIW. I love John as much as I give him shit when he's wearing that purple outfit or that blue outfit with that stupid whistle. And he hangs out with Uncle Fester and all them dudes.
Whoa, leave the belly alone.
But they're great. It's a great group. Adrian, man, he makes good gumbo, makes good red beans and rice. They put on a hell of a show. And God damn it, if you don't listen to me, you're crazy. Come out to that show.
And I
December
believe
20th.
I believe VIPs are already sold out. Is that correct?
VIPs get sold out
Yeah.
the month before the show.
Yep.
Huge Pop
Get them
Wrestling.
tickets, man.
Yep, Huge Pop Entertainment's there. Most of the shows they do the taping, and then we put it up a couple days after. It's been a blast. I cannot say thank you enough to Adrian Whisper for welcoming me into the XIW family. John, I thank you a lot for putting up with my mouth because I do get loud and rowdy, and I think that it's just great. You become part of the show, and I love what Rico said. Hey, I want to be a referee. Okay, you might have opened your mouth too far, Rico. I'm just gonna tell you that. But no, guys, what do you need to say before we get off this show? But I just wanted to say thank you, John. Like I said,
Hey, no
Adrian,
problem, man. Glad to do it.
I wanted to get you guys on here, but ultimately we're talking about your careers and finishing up the story with XIW where we're at right now.
And that's right. Real quick, I just want to say thank you guys, man. And anybody who has not gone and check a show out, this is going to be my first Chaos in the Cage show. I'm pumped. I can't wait for it. Y'all need to go check it out.
I just got a message from the ref, Teddy. Ready for this? He says, tell Rico I'll train him.
Game on.
Oh, there we go. See? Adrian, do you have anything to say, man?
Man, all I can say is thanks to all the fans that come out and support XIW. We're growing steadily, and every show we have 5 to 10 new people that's never been to a show. So that lets you know that what we're doing it right. And the only thing we need to do is get it out more to the masses. That way everybody can enjoy XIW. And all I can say, December 20th, if you're squeamish, you know what I'm saying? Watch out, because it's going to be a bloody night. I can tell you that right now.
Johnny?
You know, pretty much what Whisper said. You know, here's the thing. Anybody, and I tell people this all the time, if you can come tell me you didn't get your money's worth, I'll give you your money back.
Yeah. Amen.
Because if you attend an XIW show, I know for a fact there's no way you could say that with a straight face. And once again, it's opportunities, but it's also it takes a village. And that's the one thing about XIW, man, is we're only as good as the sum of our parts. And brother, when I say I believe in that roster, I 100% believe in it, man. We got real talent, we got real professionals. And for people who spend their money on indie wrestling, a lot of times they don't get their money's worth. You come to our show, you're going to get your money's worth and then some. And I ain't gonna lie, man, the gumbo and red beans are excellent. So definitely try those while you're there, because I always do.
Awesome. So guys, I'm gonna close the show. But don't go anywhere. I just want to say thank you off camera. So
no worries.
So everybody, XIW fans, again, December 20th, you're not gonna want to miss it. Chaos in the Cage, and you heard it from Adrian Whisper. Every match is in the cage from start to finish.
My phone's about to die, so you're gonna have to catch me in a few minutes.
All right. So
later on, Saxon.
All right, bro.
Thank you guys for joining us. I love you guys. XIW, Huge Pop Entertainment is for life, guys.